Hi, my name is Mr. Payton. Welcome back to Mental Fitness. I'm wondering about this question that I get all the time when I'm in the classroom, when I'm subbing, when I'm teaching, coaching, anything. And any kid from ages fourth grade and up will ask this question. Why do we need to learn this stuff? And when I first used to hear that question way back in the early 2000s, I would say, so you can have a good education and so you could possibly go to college, whatever. But now my answer is a lot more practical. And so I want to take you through that answer. So when a young person asks me why we need to learn this stuff, I immediately go to problem solving. And I kind of list out what you need to be able to solve problems. First and foremost, you need to be literate. I had an experience with a gentleman. He was already in his mid-50s, and he knew I was an educator. He was a friend of the family. And he came to me one day and asked me if I would teach him how to read. Now, I knew that he wasn't the most educated cat, but I had no idea that he didn't know how to read, at least, to the extent that he would admit that to me. So I told him, sure, but as soon as I got in my car, I thought, how am I going to teach this grown man how to read? I can't do what I do with kids. I can't show him, letter cards and start sounding out words like cat and dog. So I really just kind of dug into all of my strategies and I came up with an idea. So I worked with this gentleman. We got together. I did have to give him the basic sounds, and I didn't want to offend him, but I told him, I said, listen, I hope this doesn't offend you, but I need to make sure you know all the basic sounds. And he was not only eager, but he was happy to know that vowels have more than one sound. I mean, you guys, you have to understand something, that this man is in his mid-50s, and I just felt so out of place trying to teach him this thing in this manner. It wasn't that I was teaching him, but just how I was teaching him. And so as we finished up, I gave him a tool to use that I thought would be helpful. I had used it with my ELL students, or English language learners as they're called, and it had been very successful. I said, the next time you turn on the TV, so I turned it on for him. I said, I want you to turn on the closed captioning. And he was like, well, what is that? So I showed him on the remote the little CC button, and he got it on. And I said, well, if you can't find that, find subtitles. It'll start with an S. And again, he doesn't read, so I have to show him the buttons on the remote. And I said, you have words in your vocabulary. The difference between me teaching a little kid and you is that you have words. You just don't know how to figure out what the words are saying if you see them in print or see them on paper. And I said, so all you need to do is connect what you already know with what you see, and it'll take off. Now, to be honest with you, you guys, I didn't know if that was going to work, but to me, it made sense that that would happen. You guys, I've never had a more fulfilling experience with someone as this man coming up to me, having reached his goal, which I didn't tell you at the beginning. His goal was to be able to read the Sunday paper. So when he told me about a month and a half later that he had read the Sunday paper for the first time, I didn't show it in front of him, but I kind of teared up. I just thought, this man has been on earth for half a century and he was unable to do the one thing he always wanted to do. He just wanted to sit and read his paper with his coffee. And that's one of the stories I do share with young people if they press me enough about it. But the point is that this gentleman had been alive and living his life. He was a hardworking guy. He was one of those handyman type guys. And he didn't know how to read, and he wished he had learned. And so, of course, that sounds like an extreme example, right? How many adults will walk around and can't read? I'll tell you, more than you know. But the point I was making in sharing that story is that there are so many things as an adult that kids take for granted. I'll give you another. Going to the grocery store, buying things, figuring out the discounts, watching some adults not be able to figure out what a 20% discount is going to give them on a particular item, not being able to figure out the buy one, get one if that's really a good deal, or something even more subtle. Looking at a really big box of cereal, for example, and looking at the price, and then looking at the small box of cereal, and not being able to tell if buying the big box is a good deal or not. For those of you who go to Costco and Sam's Club, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes it doesn't save you money to buy things in bulk. And so when young people ask me why we need to learn these skills, yeah, you probably don't need to learn physics. I'll admit that. You probably aren't going to use chemistry very much, although you'll use chemistry more than you think. But for a lot of the lessons that maybe you get in high school, That's not so much for you to use in everyday life. It's more to discipline your mind to be able to acquire skills. Trust me when I tell you, if you decide to have children, there'll be things that you'll have to learn on the fly. And sometimes it's just you sitting down with a manual and reading it, trying to figure out how to put that stroller together or how to put the crib together. And if you've paid attention in school, then following those directions ain't going to be a big deal to you. But if you just kind of messed around the whole time, you're going to end up having to pay someone to do it or having to pay more to have it already put together. And when we think about it, in this day and time where making money and the prices on things are going up and up and up, every dollar you can save is worth it. So to those of you out there who are in school now, who are questioning why you should finish, why you should put forth the effort, consider a couple of those stories and situations that I put forth to you. Remember, up until about 6th grade, you're learning certain skills. After that, you're being put in situations where you can show those skills effectively. It's what we call critical thinking, problem solving. So to those middle school and high school students out there, I know it's difficult. I know it's boring. It's not as exciting as it can be. Now, if you had the privilege of being in Mr. Payton's class, then that's a different situation. But if you're in a regular class and you don't got a cool teacher like I was, then just understand that it's for your benefit. It'll be as good as you decide for it to be. So even though you're taking that physics exam or you're doing world literature and you're not really into reading, just remember what the purpose is. The purpose is to strengthen your mind, strengthen your ability to solve problems, to give you critical thinking skills, so that you're not stressed out when you're an adult, so that you can make good decisions that may save you money or may put your child or your spouse in a better situation, or even a family member. So bear in mind, while we're in school, as we get older, we probably do have all the skills we need. I'll admit that. But being in school and taking it seriously will give you the opportunity to test those skills. It will give you a safe environment to use those skills and to build up your capacity to solve problems and critically think. So then when you're 20-something years old or 30-something years old and you're trying to do something new or you're trying to do something that's needed for your family, you'll have the skills to do that. Consider this. If you had to go through life like the gentleman I shared with you until you're 50 years old and you couldn't read, just think about that for a second. Think about how many things you have to read on a daily basis. Street signs, menus at the fast food place. Again, putting things together. Playing your favorite video games online. Just think if you couldn't read all those cheat codes. Okay, so don't take the skills you have for granted and don't ever think that you're too cool or too smart or too wealthy to keep learning. So as I close up this episode and remind you that this was yet another area of mental fitness that we need to work on, this area of mental fitness I like to call cognitive awareness. That's cognitive awareness. I want you to consider that, and I want you to think about the other ones that we've learned. We've worked on sensual awareness, emotional awareness. This episode was about cognitive awareness. We still got self-awareness to deal with, and we still got objective awareness. All of these are part of this umbrella that I created called mental fitness. But all of them are trying to get you to one place: freedom. Free to experience life at its highest level. Free to have relationships with people and be positive and feel good about them. Free to just get up every day and get the most out of life. Now, this episode has been a little longer than some of my others because I really think cognitive awareness is the one we take the most for granted. When I talk about sensual awareness, I think people just literally forget that one. They forget about what it's like to be a kid and touch things and smell things and hear things. When it comes to emotional awareness, I feel like we're paying a lot of attention to that. But when it gets to cognitive awareness, and if you want a kind of a short definition for cognitive awareness, I would say it this way: it's your academic skills. It's those skills, those mental skills that you have that some of us feel like we lose from time to time, and that's my point. Not everybody is going to continue to read their whole life. I don't like reading, but I'm very good at it. If I need to read something, I can get it done. You may not like math, but you do need to be able to balance your budget. And so as we think about cognitive awareness, it may be the most important of all. And most of you who are listening to this are in a position right now to develop that level of awareness, and you're not taking advantage of the opportunity. Probably because you don't like your high school or middle school. You don't like your teacher. Your mom's getting on your nerves. Your hormones out of control. Whatever excuse you want to come up with. I'm going to challenge you to take a look at what's going on in your class or in your field of study. If you're an adult and you're studying to become a nurse or studying your trade, consider it as well. How can increasing and improving my critical thinking skills, my problem solving skills, give me a more stress-free life? Stop and just think about that for a second. Having a better budget because your math is good. Being able to figure out what the next move is for you career-wise. Deciding that you may or may not need to stay in a relationship you're in. The decision to move, and if you can afford to do it. These are all critical thinking questions. They're all problem-solving situations. And you'll only be able to do these effectively if you develop your cognitive awareness. I want to thank you for listening to this episode. Like I said, it's been a little bit longer than some of the others. I just hope that you are becoming more and more mentally fit with each episode. And as always, I thank you for watching. Take care.